The U.S. Department of Energy is cleaning up the Oak Ridge Reservation of residual hazardous and radioactive contamination left over as a result of decades of nuclear energy research. Much of that work has been influenced by the Oak Ridge Site-Specific Advisory Board, a citizens panel that provides independent advice and recommendations on DOE's cleanup operations. You're welcome to attend the meetings and be part of this important work.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome everybody to the June meeting of the ORSAP board. Do we have comments from our special people at the head of the table?
Yes, we do.
Yay!
And thank you for the special people comment. Last week, if for those of you who may not have been watching, Eric Olds had been our acting manager for Oak Ridge EM. He was appointed as permanent manager. It is no longer an acting position. And Eric apologizes for not being here tonight, but he has been on travel to DC and got back today, but it has been a very long day. So he let Melissa and I, he trusts us to do this. So last month, Eric mentioned to you all that the demolition on one of the 3026 hot cells out at Ornell had begun. That work continues, and in addition, more demolition of central campus facilities will begin this week. Mike, when he goes over his presentation, will tell you more about that. This is all part of, transforming central campus so that Ornell mission can continue. In addition, we just transferred another parcel of property out at ETTP. It's the former K27, K29 footprint. For those who've been out there, it's a large flat grassy field. It's right next to where the Interpretive Center is, the museum. That was transferred to the Oak Ridge Industrial Development Board, who has a client or a party interested already in purchasing that. So that's just one more step to where we're trying to get to as far as reindustrializing that entire site. The last thing is next week we have the EPA regional administrator coming as basically the boss over Region 4 out of Atlanta. Will be coming up here. It's a fairly unique event. The regional administrators don't usually come. We have a lot of their staff come for visits, but this year, the new regional administrator and his chief of staff have decided to come up for a tour. And in conjunction with that, we're going to have a signing of the final Zone 1 soils rod for ETTP, another record decision. And if you have followed our story over the last couple of years, getting these rod signs are big. That's a significant event for us to have a record decision signed. And this one will clear a lot of the remaining property at ETTP. So all of that wrapped up into one visit, sort of a big day for us. That'll be Tuesday. We'll have more to tell you about that at next month's meeting. And with that, what's next on the agenda?
I'm gonna turn it over to Melissa and let her talk.
I don't have anything. He took my comments. Just everything.
Just to be clear, she gave them to me. I'm not up here grabbing paper.
She'll have something to say throughout the meeting, I'm sure. Christoph?
Good afternoon. It's so nice to be here and see all of you guys. The cleanup in Oak Ridge is getting a lot of recognition. I just came back from Santa Fe, where I attended a meeting of the Federal Facility Task Group that considers of the state representatives from the states hosting DOE facilities. Oak Ridge was prominent in all the remarks and comments from DOE headquarters folks. One of the comments that I attributing to Kristen Ellis from headquarters was that nuclear renaissance is coming to fruition in Oak Ridge. So all the good work here is being recognized and being broadcasted in.
That's great.
Nationally.
Samantha, I see you're online. Do you have any comments today?
has to unmute.
Sorry, I had difficulty unmuting. Yes, I apologize for not being there in person. I just want to reiterate something Roger said. Next week, we will be signing the record of decision for Zone 1, which is the final. We have an interim record of decision but we'll be signing the final one next week. And I mean, that's a big milestone for us, showing that the Zone 1 actions have been completed. So we're looking forward to that. And thank you.
Thank you. We will now have our presentation, excess facility risk reduction at ORNL and Y12. And Chris, will you please introduce our presenters?
We have Morgan Carden, serves as the federal project manager for the excess contaminated facilities at Y12 for the Department of Energy's Oak Ridge Office of Environment Management. She oversees the deactivation and demolition of facilities, environmental management, and surveillance and maintenance activities at Y12. She also has experience overseeing the nuclear operations excuse me, and maintenance activities at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Her career includes more than 8 years of experience working with the Department of Energy and private sector environmental services companies. And we also have Michael Westall, serves as the federal project manager for ORNL cleanup for ORNL. He currently manages projects for pre-demolition and demolition of ORNL's excess contaminated facilities and circular investigations of the ORNL assessments units and exposure units. His career includes 30 years of experience working in environmental compliance and project oversight, 6 years with TDEC, DOE, and IDAS oversight, 21 years with the Department of Army, and more than 4 years with ORNL. Welcome, guys.
We'll let you take it from here.
Okay, I'm Morgan. Just one time. Thanks everybody, not just you, Morgan.
So I'm going to go over the excess contaminated facilities at Y12 and the progress that we're currently making. So as a lot of you all know, that 60% of NNSA's buildings are over 40 years old, which puts them back in the 1940s and the Manhattan era project. The Oak Ridge complex has many high-risk facilities that pose various risks and challenges. So EM's goal is to reduce these risks for our workers, the public, and the environment. But another goal that we're working towards at Y12 is paving the way for modernization for the Y12 national security mission. This figure on the right shows legacy facilities that OREM will be addressing, and it's all the facilities that are in red. And they'll be characterized, prepared for demolition, and eventually they'll be demolished. And we've made progress on these facilities and demolished 2 buildings so far. And just to give you a quick update of what we're looking at right now in the near term, in the green, see if I can figure this out. So this is the biology complex. This is one of the facilities that we've demolished. And one of the other ones is not on this, but I'll talk about it later in this presentation. And then in the orange right here is Alpha 2, and we are currently demolishing that building. And then the other 3 facilities in yellow, they're currently undergoing deactivation activities. So these are the 2 facilities that we have demolished so far. On the left is the biology complex. It was originally constructed to perform uranium recovery until 1947, and then the mission changed to support the study of the effects of radiation on mice and other animals. It originally had 11 facilities in the entire complex, and our preparation for demolition activities actually started in 2016. It's changed hands over the years, but in February of 2021, we started demolition, and we completed a year later in February of 2022. For the building on the right, building 9213, that's the Criticality Experimental Laboratory. That was constructed in 1949, so around the same time frame as biology. It was created to perform experiments and collect data from low energy, potentially chain reaction assemblies. And our preparation for demolition activities started in July of 2020, which is around the same time that we moved our crews from ETTP to Y12 and ORNL. And our demolition started May of 2022 and completed in December of 2022. So Alpha 2 is our largest demolition project to date at Y12. It's originally constructed for uranium enrichment, but the mission, like many of the other facilities at Y12, changed over the years and performed many different functions. This was constructed during the Manhattan era in the 1940s. And in order to prepare this building for demolition, we had to do various activities. So we performed beryllium and asbestos abatement. We collected samples from walls, floors, all the equipment, materials, even the soils that were in the basement. We had to perform a lot of radiological screening due to the radiological contamination in the building. We also performed removal of loose, universal, and hazardous waste to reduce a lot of their risk before demolition activities could begin. We also had to manage a lot of mercury contaminated piping. This was in the basement. And then before we could begin demolition, in order to condemn the building, we had to fill the basement with a low slump material. So it's like a concrete material, and it allows structural stability for our large heavy equipment to roll over in the building to fall onto it during demolition. Also, during our preparation for demolition activities, we worked hand in hand with NNSA and CNS to reroute above grade utilities. These utilities were active lines, and by rerouting them, we were able to allow NNSA to continue their active activities that were going on the site. So, as I mentioned, this building is undergoing active demolition. Our demolition activities began in September of 2024 with the demolition of a carpenter shop. It was on the west side of the building. It was a very small building. We completed it in about 2 days. And then demolition of the large facility that you see here began in November of 2024, and we're about 27% complete. The south side low bay, which is the figure on the left, that's been completed. And then we completed the northeast low bay, which is not pictured, but it looks very similar to the south low bay. And then we are currently working on the east high bay and the northwest low bay. And if you look at the picture on the right, that's our ultra high reach excavator working on the east high bay. So we had to have a very large piece of equipment to reach the top portions of this building. So the next building we have slated for demolition, next large building we have slated for demolition is Beta 1. And originally this one was also constructed for uranium enrichment. It was a Manhattan era building. If you look in the center of the slide, it looks very similar to Alpha 2. So they were both the smaller buildings that were first built. And also with just like Alpha 2, the mission changed throughout the years. One example is this was originally a Y12 building, but then in the 1950s, Y12 actually transferred it over to Office of Science for research and development activities. In the 1980s, ORNL built a large coil test facility to test superconducting magnets, which is the photo on the left. It's a very, very large piece of equipment, and it goes from the top of the high bay all the way down into the basement. And as of today, the building's undergone all deactivation and preparation for demolition activities for the building itself, and our crews are currently working on preparing the basement for demolition. This includes borescoping and sampling the pipes that are in the basement. They're removing the hazardous and universal waste similar to Alpha 2 and all of those activities. They're also isolating the pipes and drains that could possibly exit the building, because when we pour the low slump material into the basement, we don't want anything to exit the basement. And they're also doing additional asbestos abatement and things like that. Another tricky encounter we had in this building was a lot of water infiltration. To date, and it's been a little less than 2 years, we've pumped over 12 million gallons of water out of this basement. Wow. So that's been a lot of coordination in order to have our crews in this basement trying to get work done, but also keeping them safe. And then once they're able to have this basement fully prepared for demolition, we'll fill it with the low slump material and then condemn the building. And then the photo on the right is an example of one of our workers performing some sampling of the piping. It's called NDA. So they're testing the radioactivity of the piping. So as we move through all of our demolition projects on the east side of the plant, which is where you'll find your Beta 1 and your Alpha 2, we continue to prepare for a lot of the larger, higher risk mercury contaminated facilities that are on the west side of the plant. We're currently performing deactivation activities at Alpha 4, which is your top left, and 9401-1, which is your bottom right. And we're in the early stages of mobilizing and planning activities for Beta 4, which is your bottom left. And then Alpha 5, I'm sure a lot of you all have heard, it's a very risky and hazardous facility, and it's going to take a lot of coordination, a lot of planning and preparation to perform deactivation work in this building. So that will be much later after Beta 4. Our goal is to be able to implement a lot of our lessons learned from our deactivation demolition activities from Alpha 2 and Beta 1 into these buildings, so we're well equipped for these larger, higher risk facilities. And just to give you a comparison, so Alpha 2 is 325,000 square feet, but Alpha 4 and Alpha 5 are 530,000 square feet. So very large in comparison to what we're currently working on. And that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions?
Board members first.
I got a question. Do we want questions now or after?
Actually, yeah, could we wait?
Until we get,
Let Mike do his thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure they get through that.
I'm sorry, Michael, would you go ahead and?
I'm Mike Gaskell, so. I'm covering the ORNL's transformation basically through the cleanup and deactivation demolition of our facilities. Our first picture, we're trying to enhance safety by eliminating the high-risk facilities, reducing the risk, the environmental risk, the safety risk, like Morgan said, for the workers, for the public, and just for the environment itself at ORNL. But there's a process to get there. And as you were listening to Morgan, she went through some of the steps of the processes at Y12, and we have the same process steps at ORNL. Some of the process things we have to do to get there, we have documentation like our RDR, RAWPs, which are the remedial action work plans, our waste handling plans, our data quality objectives, that these documents have to be coordinated and worked through with the regulators and with DOE to get approvals for these. One of our first steps when we start deactivation of a building is to take the building, we call it cold and dark. That means basically what it says, we're disconnecting from all the utilities, disconnecting from electricity, steam, water, wastewater, and then reestablishing temporary power in that building. The next step that we normally go through is removing all the combustibles from the building to reduce any risk of having a fire or anything in the building. Then characterization, removing all the waste from the building, characterizing the deactivation waste as part of our characterization. And then as we go through, we can reach the edges of the walls and the ceilings and do characterization of what will become the demolition material. So we have two steps in our characterization process as well. As we remove the universal waste and the hazardous waste and the asbestos from the buildings, we basically have that packaged and send it off to the required places to dispose of that properly. And part of it, so that basically waste handling is a big part of our deactivation prep for demo process. Then we get to the demolition part. So there's a lot of work that goes in before demolition. We see a lot of videos that cover and show the demolition work, and we're glad when we get there. But 95% of the work, if not more, is in preparing that facility for demolition. And then you have to deal with the waste from demolition. Send that, make sure that's characterized properly, meets the correct waste criteria for wherever we're sending it off for disposal. After the demolition waste is removed from the site, we go back and they survey the site to make sure that it's basically it's safe for the worker to be there and stuff. And then we work on another document that we send to the regulators called a post-construction completion report. And that's basically, in a nutshell, the process that we go through from the beginning of deactivation, preparation for demolition, and then post-demolition. Which one? This is just a picture showing that the buildings in red are the buildings that are in our excess contaminated facilities that at some point we plan on demolishing. Some of them have already been demolished, which we'll go over shortly. But as you can see, we're located in the middle of the ORNL campus. We're located in an active site. So there's a lot of challenges that come with that. This is, you can see some of our facilities in the Melton Valley area. You got the homogeneous reactor experiment and the EGCR, experimental gas cooled reactor area that was never fueled. But these are also in our program to basically deactivate and demolish. All right, conducting cleanup at an active DOE site has a lot of challenges. Like I showed before, we have buildings that are within 100 feet, some areas within 50 feet of a building that we're getting ready to demolish. So we have to work with that. We have multiple radionuclides that have to be addressed, like cobalt-60, cesium-137, strontium-90, and a lot of transuranics and things like that at ORNL. So it's a different deactivation demolition a little bit than what we faced at ETTP. And we got high rad doses in some areas. We found sources in some areas that had to be removed to be able to continue on with the deactivation process. So there's a much higher technical difficulty than what we have faced in the past. Technically challenging. We're dealing with reactors, isotope production facilities, hot cells, glove boxes, and we still have to deal with contaminants such as beryllium and mercury. We have to work and coordinate with our other DOE partner, Office of Science. We have to coordinate with the M&O contractors like UTB and at Watchwell, CNS. And we have security that we have to deal with and have to work with as well to get through our deactivation demolition process. All right. Some of the successes we've had so far on completed demolitions are the tritium target facility, which is in Bethel Valley, kind of toward the east end of Bethel Valley. And then 3026, the West Cell Bank. And we're going to look at some photographs here in a few minutes of these facilities. A bulk shielding reactor, low intensity Texas reactor in 2023. And a lot of our prep for demolition, our deactivation work at the graphite reactor support facilities is ongoing. Our isotope row facilities, the Oak Ridge Research Reactor Facility, and many hot cells. (3026) was a hot cell facility. The picture on the upper left shows the West Cell Bank and the East Cell Bank that was utilized, I think, in the 50s and 60s. The picture to the right of that shows the demolition of the West Cell Bank, and you can see in the background the East Cell Bank is still standing. And then in your lower left picture, it shows where the flexible membrane is over top of the hot cells. The west cell bank has been removed and you got a good view of the east cell bank. And then to the right is the beginning of the demolition of the east cell bank, which Roger mentioned a while ago was last month. So we began the demolition of the east cell bank, cell B, last month. And this is a picture of the area where 3005 and 3010, the low intensity test reactor and the bulk shielding reactor facilities are located. The gravel area toward the top of the picture is where the low intensity test reactor was located, and the lower gravel area is where the bulk shielding reactor facility was located. And if you look just to the left of the upper graveled area, that is the Oak Ridge Research Reactor. So you can kind of see the difference in the size of that one versus the other two. So that's the one we're in active we're deactivating that facility right now, prepping it for demo. And just to the upper part of you see the graveled area just to the top of is 3003 facility. That's going to be demolished starting tomorrow. So there we go. These are just shows the progress that we did through the bulk shielding reactor facility in 2022. The upper left is the full facility still intact. To the right shows partially demoed, and to the bottom shows the completed demo of the bulk shielding reactor. And this is some pictures of the progress that was made for the low intensity test reactor. The top left shows the reactor as they began demolition, partially with all the metal off the sides of it on the picture on the right. The picture on the lower left is the building removed and the reactor remains in place. And then the next step was to remove that reactor. Is in the bottom right. The reactor was sent off site in 2024, January 2024. So it's sit on site. We had discovered some cadmium inside the reactor. So the original plan was to send it to one disposal area, but because of the cadmium, they had to replan and send it to another disposal area out west. So. And as I mentioned before, this in the yellow square are the graphite reactor support facilities. Just to the left of the yellow square is the Oak Ridge Graphite Reactor. It is a National Historic Preservation Site, so it will remain there as a historic site. But the support facilities, the fan house and the filter house and the stack will eventually all be demolished. But we're starting with the fan house, which is the lower part in that square. And our Oak Ridge Research Reactor preparation for demolition. This shows kind of the progress of that. The upper picture, you're looking down into the pool area, and you can see there's a lot of items down in the pool, a lot of piping in the pool, a lot of stuff in the bottom of the pool. And also there was the cylindrical item you see that's in blue in the pool. It was a basket that was used. They used it to put all the stuff in and pull it out, and then package it and get it ready for shipment. The lower left picture shows the removal of the top half of the reactor. The reactor had to be removed in sections. They started off with the top half and then completed the bottom half a few months after that. And then the far right picture shows the pool completely empty of the reactor. And that's where the reactor had set at in the pool. Part of that deactivation that we've got going on there now is a lot of lead removal and piping and draining of piping and things like that. So far, they have removed 286,000 pounds of lead from that facility. And they have inspected and drained over 1,000 feet, linear feet of piping so far. This is some pictures of inside of, to the left is inside of an isotope row facility, 3029. It's a picture of the hot cells. There's 3 hot cells located right there in that picture that have the sight glass, and they have some things that are called manipulator arms. What would happen is the worker would work outside the hot cell using the manipulator arms and watch what they were doing inside through that sight glass. And yeah, so we're facing some challenges with this one as well. I think a source has been found inside one of the hot cells, so we're having to reactivate some of the manipulator arms or get some manipulator arms to where that source can be handled properly before they can complete deactivation in that specific building. The picture in the center shows the location along Central Avenue of the isotope row facilities and 3038, which is another radiological development building. 3038 is also being deactivated, and a lot of pre-demolition work is ongoing there. It contains hot cells and glove boxes and a lot of challenges there as well. To the far right, you see a picture. You're looking up at the ceiling at some transite duct. Each of those facilities have had a lot of transite duct work. Transite is an asbestos-containing material, and it's very heavy and it's pretty high up, so the workers have to work in basically fully dressed out and in respirators to do this work. So they're doing a lot of work to prepare these facilities for eventual demolition. And I think after we complete the graphite reactor support facilities in 3026, these will be the next 2 facilities on our list for demolition currently. Any questions?
We will now go to questions from the board first. Chris?
I wonder, watching that, I know that the amount of water that's been pumped out at Rockwell is substantial. And talking about the pumps were out, and so those buildings were full. At ORNL, is that water table, is that as big a problem, or is it both sites show that?
At ORNL, we do have water that actually the Oak Ridge Research Reactor Facility has a sump pump in the basement there that is utilized to pump out groundwater stuff. So before they fill the basement up with the low strength concrete type material, that sump pump will be removed. But it is going to stay pumping at least until they're ready to fill the basement with the concrete material stuff. We got another facility, the homogeneous reactor experiment. It has water in the basement of it. I think it initially had a sump pump that was operated by the M&O contractor, UTB, but I think they were allowed to abandon that sump pump. So the basement basically filled up with water. So when we get to that facility, there will be those same type of challenges of having to deal with the groundwater, reactivating the sump pumps and pumping out the water. Yes.
Harriet?
At a previous meeting, we learned that DOE's been given permission to recycle materials. How will that impact volume and the kind of stuff that's taken down at ORNL? Is there recyclable materials there? Metals?
They will have to characterize it to see whether or not it is truly recyclable.
That's probably true of both
It still has to meet DOE requirements to be released for recycling. But the last thing we would want to do is to release something and it have some type of contamination on it. It would not be utilized, but they are looking at that. I know they are, especially with the large amounts of lead that we have been removing. They're looking at whether or not can it meet the characterization requirements to be released, to be used.
General
and stuff
stuff.
like
Okay.
We have done some recycling, like at the experimental gas cooled reactor where it was never fueled. There was no radiological issue. We have done some recycling from that facility. And I would think that it will be looked very closely at if there's other things that can be recycled
From it.
from it as well, since it should not be contaminated with, it won't be contaminated with radiological constituents. It could still have PCBs constituents or asbestos. I think we'll have to remove most of the asbestos, but the PCBs might be a concern there.
I chuckled when you talk about the hot cells. As a, probably a pre-teenager, AEC used to give family tours. And we went in those and manipulated those hot cells as kids.
So you got to use the manipulator arms and see how
Use
they
the
work.
manipulator arms, yeah. And look down into the research reactor at the swimming pool.
Yes. Actually,
Families traipse through the whole facility, the dark ages.
there's a picture in the recordation for the Oak Ridge Research Reactor that has President Kennedy and his wife. And I think the older Senator Gore looking down.
Down in it, yeah,
To-
probably, yeah.
Your Oak Ridge Research. That's pretty interesting.
I see that we have a hand up online, but is there any more in the room before I go to online? Okay. Shelley, I think Samantha has a question, but I can't really see from here.
She got her hand there, she is.
I have a question. In Morgan's presentation, she mentioned that one building, and I can't remember which one, was going to be condemned. Did you mean demolished, or did you truly mean condemned?
I truly meant condemned. So our process is, after all the deactivation and preparation for demolition activities are complete, we'll have engineering go through the facility and officially condemn it. And then after it's condemned, we don't allow any other workers inside this building, and we start creating our fall zones and in preparation for demolition. And at that point, the building's ready for demo.
Okay, so it will be eventually demolished,
Yeah.
Yes.
just temporarily condemned. All right.
Yeah, when we condemn it, it's usually like a very short time between the condemnation and then demolition starting. So for Alpha 2, we condemned the building on, I think it was like a Tuesday, and then by that following Monday, we started demolition. So I mean, it's a very short time.
Okay, I just wanted to verify whether it was going to be condemned and remain on site or eventually demolished. So thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the board online or in the room? We will go to comment and questions from the public.
You have questions about the presentation?
Yeah, I'm a comment on the presentation. You know, this presentation would go well with the previous one we had on assurance waste disposal capacity. You know, if we had a little bit more information on the volumes involved, because this stuff, it has to go somewhere.
But the Alpha 2 facility that's currently being demolished, almost all of it's going to EMWMF. And then there's some lead paneling that's in there, and it will either be recycled or sent out to tenants.
Yeah, I think for the one that we're getting ready to start demolition tomorrow for 3003, I think they said it's less than 500 cubic yards. But it will all be going to EMWMF as well.
Is that in the waste handling plans, or is that documented afterwards at BCCR? Or both?
The characterization and the plans for where it would go based on the characterization, and they'll do a data quality objectives, then they do a data quality analysis assessment that they present to the basically to the regulators. And based on the characterization, will determine where it will go. But it is in the waste handling plan. There's a hierarchy in the waste handling
Yeah,
plan.
but on I guess the water facilities in particular, there've been a lot of addendums to that waste handling plan.
Yeah, there have, and the actual volumes of like what the final volumes of what went to each landfill. That is covered in the PCCRs.
Okay, moving forward. Any other comments pertaining to this meeting will continue to be accepted.
That was question. We do have to have like public comment period separate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Philly. So we will move right into public comment.
Other questions? Mr. Gibson does have a public comment to share.
Okay, yeah, we worked this out last time. I think this new direction at headquarters, we worked it out kind of, I was supposed to have been doing period here, but whatever. My name is Luther Gibson. I'm a former member and chair of the Oak Ridge Site Specific Advisory Board and vice president of the Coalition of Oak Ridge Retired Employees. And I have 48 years of applicable experience to the subject matter being discussed here, the last 8 without a W-2. These comments were finalized this morning, too late for submission for the packet, because I was awaiting additional budget justification details to be released by the Department of Energy. And as of this morning, in fact, as of about 4 or 5 p.m. when I checked last, what is available is still the skinny budget outline, a 1-page summary, my top level appropriation accounts, and what they call a DOE 2026 congressional justification budget in brief to work off of. The detailed budget justifications that consist of 6 volumes and a total of 27 separate sections only have 4 sections available. These are the National Nuclear Security, Federal Salaries and Expenses, Naval Reactors, Energy Information Administration, and the Indian Energy Policy and Programs. Oak Ridge's FY26 request would be down, however, by 9% from the FY25 enacted. The additional information that will be released later will not have the opportunity to be discussed that would have if it had been available earlier. And just another comment, switching gears here, relatively new DOE Order 515.1 Advisory Committee Management Program approved on January 16, 2025, page 832. Meeting responsibilities for DFOs and advisory committee chairpersons says they should distribute agendas and meeting materials to members in advance of meetings when possible. However, this has been delayed by reviews in Washington of Oak Ridge information, much of which is already in the public domain. This is unnecessary and results in inability to review the presentations and meeting materials in advance and to engage effectively were that not the case. Furthermore, posting materials associated with the meeting is being delayed by an additional review until just before the next meeting. And also communications to local stakeholders from the local SSAB have become uncertain due to lack of understanding that a more hands-off approach would work just fine. And then finally, I want to say that correspondence among the federal facility agreement parties that is available indicates the projects are being initiated and there is discussion of issues being raised that the board should be more engaged in. Hopefully TDEC and EPA will consider that in submitting their input to the annual planning meeting. And as Nikki Healy said, I'm not going anywhere, and I certainly will with the information that I'm able to glean. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Do we have any other?
We have no other public comment listed.
Okay. Then I'll say it again. Comments pertaining to this meeting will continue to be accepted by email to the ORSAT staff, sorry. But the deadline for that will be June 13th, which is this Friday by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, we don't need a motion. Oh, we will need a motion to approve the agenda though.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor to approve the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Our next meeting will be at 6 PM on August 13th, which will be our annual planning meeting. And if you haven't attended one of those, it's really interesting. There's a lot that goes on, a lot of information. So if you have something planned that day, try to reschedule it because the annual meeting really has a lot of information in it. That concludes our presentation portion of the meeting. We will, I guess, give our presenters a moment to depart if they would like to. And we will go into board business. Did everybody receive the informational packet via email? Did everybody get a chance to look over the minutes? Did anybody have any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, they will stand approved as written. I'm gonna go to Melissa. Melissa, do you have any responses to recommendations or any DDFO?
We don't have any current open recommendations. We're waiting on y'all to get ready to present the budget recommendation, and that's going through the process right now. We actually had an staff meeting with the headquarters DDFO today. And one of the things that they're looking at with the new administration for the time being, fall chairs meetings are going to be virtual and spring chair meetings will be in person. So right now, the previous Hanford one that was scheduled for fall is being bumped to spring. And I'm assuming headquarters will host the virtual one in fall. That wasn't really made completely clear. Travel is a bit of a problem right now. Everything has to go all the way up to EM1 for approval. So there won't be a lot of travel offered in the next few months. And like with the spring one, we won't have to submit that travel up because headquarters will do that for us. So we just have to let them know how many people we plan to have attend, and they will take care of that particular type thing. But that's all I have it right now. It's a different time now.
I ask how many from this board might be able to attend in the spring? Are you thinking one?
We normally do 1 to 2, so we've not been given any direction from them as to how many we can have. But that's usually what we go forward with is 1 or 2, and then they'll either tell us that we can't have that or not. We are in a unique position with our board in that we have this location for the time being to have our meetings. So therefore, we're not having to travel to different sites. The other sites travel to different locations, and they have been told that they have to keep theirs, I believe it's less than 6 meetings. If they have more than 6 meetings, all those extra meetings have to be virtual. So they're starting to limit their internal travel at their locations. And we don't know if this is a temporary for the next few months, or if this is going to be for the next 3.5 years.
You're like a lot of us right now, living day to day.
Today, yes. That's all I have, Amy.
Thank you. Let's see. Before I get, well, I guess I could let you do that. Since I was unable to attend the executive meeting last week, I will let Chris give you an update on that. But before he does, I do want to remind everybody that we do have officer elections coming up. And if you are interested in any of those positions, and Chris will go into more detail on that, be sure to let the staff know if you are interested in one of those positions.
We're still lacking a secretary at this time.
I'm trying to find.
We're lacking someone to
Even
run for secretary at this time.
What about vice chair? Because it's not on.
That's all right.
There's nobody's name listed on there.
Had heard from someone and didn't get it updated in time.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. You'll have a slate
Yeah.
at the annual meeting, so.
We talked about officer elections. We're hoping to get that on the September vote. August slate, that's it. And then we also talked about the budget. Coming along, the budget recommendation. That's about it on the meeting. And I think if there was anything. That was the gist of it.
Thank you, Chris. Charles, would you like to give us a update on stewardship?
Yeah, the recommendation is coming along quite nicely. I think we've kind of narrowed it down to exactly what we're going to put down. It's just now that we're gonna have to make it nice and beautiful so it can be presentable. So I believe that's all from our side.
Thank you.
In the beautification stage.
The what?
It's in the beautification stage.
We have to do it that way to be able to send it to, headquarters and everywhere else. It's gotta go. Are you talking about today? Yeah. Well, I see that we have new members on. Okay, so issue groups. I hope everybody knows that you can sign up for any of our issue groups. But tonight's presentation, the issue group, is listed actually on the agenda, which is, Chris, Mary, I think still online. Yep. Harold, me, and Lauren, or Lulu, as I heard earlier. Harriet, Charles, is it Nancy Rogers? Who's Rogers?
Melanie.
Melanie, thank you.
Not here tonight.
No, Michael, and then, Kelly, right?
Yeah.
Thompson. Is that everybody on this evening's issue group? And then there were several on the budget. And I know everybody should have been on that email, and I know Charles is working really hard to take care of that, so, and I'm leaving that in his hands. Are there any additions to the agenda? I know we've already gone over upcoming officer elections, so I won't have to do that. You will have a slate at the annual meeting though, correct? And if you got your packet, there was a list of the officer elections and who's available, who needs to be what positions, there we go, are available.
Yes, you mentioned that the annual meeting is like a cancel all plans day. Is that not just an evening time slot?
It is.
It is, it's
It
just
is.
a hefty.
Right.
I was just making sure I don't need to
Yeah.
figure out
It used,
the day
I
off.
plan to be here a little longer than normal,
Okay,
but there's a lot of information given during that annual meeting.
Roger.
It used to be a 2-day meeting.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
day and a
fine.
half. But as Melissa said, travel's one of those things we're not doing right now.
Melissa, didn't we do it? We did it from 6 to 8 last year, I think.
Yeah, it was 6 to 8.
6 to 8. I think that sounds right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any closing remarks? Roger?
No, I did actually. I encourage you, a lot of what you saw tonight will be what we go and look at on the
23rd.
23rd. Just look at your packet, look at presentations, and just think about any of the things that you saw. If you have questions about it, bring them on the 23rd.
Will you be, doing that?
Yes.
So you will be up to date and very knowledgeable about everything we saw.
Yes, because I do almost the same tour the very next day.
Oh,
Wow.
that's right. You could use this as a dry run.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. You've got visitors. Yeah.
Well, actually, you got visitors next week, and then your tour, and then the day after that, general accounting office.
Oh, GAO. Well, with
You obviously know about GAO.
Wildlife Service had to play with them.
Yeah,
Um,
they have some interest in some of the things we're doing.
it crossed my mind, this is totally extraneous. That very large crane that's doing the great work,
Uh-huh.
is that a rental or do you guys own that?
That is a rental. And that is a very good question. That is a very special piece of equipment.
Yeah.
There are only, the last time I checked, there are only about 10 of those in the entire country.
Yeah.
And it is like any heavy piece of yellow iron equipment that we have, has a lot of hydraulic hoses, things like that. When that machine goes down, the project stops. It's not like we can just run over to Knoxville and rent.
Pick up a piece.
The other, or anything like that. The operators are as rare also. The operators for, the last time I heard, the operators for that particular piece of machinery make on the order of $80,000 to $90,000 a year. So. And they are in very high demand. We're not the only people that have very large buildings that need to come down.
Yeah.
And yes, we do have to buy them on occasion. Because once they've been here, if they turn out to be contaminated.
You keep them. That's what the other thing I was wondering about. Yeah.
I got a quick question too.
Yeah.
Can you give us an update on the mercury treatment plant?
We are currently rebaselining still, working with our contractor UCOR to develop an up-to-date baseline on that. We have a review with headquarters that we have to do in August or September, I think it is. And then because of challenges that project has faced, that review will then lead into the new baseline will have to be approved all the way up through the deputy secretary's office. That will be a fairly long process just because if you've ever been part of a bureaucracy, whoever's at the top, everybody below them has to touch that piece of paper. So there will be a fairly long process of getting that approval. The last time I heard it, we were anticipating an approved baseline maybe the middle of the next calendar year. There are some construction activities that are still continuing, but once those are done, I believe that it will be in the fall. We'll have those wrapped up. Once we get to those, construction will pretty much pause until we get the new approved baseline.
Thank you.
I wanted to tell Chris, thank you for sharing that feedback on work being done out here. That's encouraging. That's a big compliment for the local work being done.
Yeah, and can also translate to the financial support. And
Yeah,
budget.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking. I like.
Does anybody have anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Opposed? Any of those?
Yeah, you.
Start to say, yeah.
Couple of days.
I need to like, tell
I'm gonna get called up. I thought, well, I was this weekend, that I'd have the opportunity to kind of look at a few things and